On the evening of December 8th, 2000, the quiet community of Jarafa, just outside Omdurman in Sudan, prepared for prayers at the local mosque. It was an ordinary night, cool and still, the kind of evening where people sought peace and worship and companionship. Men of all ages gathered together, their voices low, their movements familiar. They came not only for prayer, but for the comfort of community and faith. But peace can shatter in an instant. As the worshippers prayed, the heavy wooden doors creaked, and a man entered. He carried with him not reverence, but a Kalashnikov rifle. His name was Abbas Baqir Abbas. In that moment, the calm of the mosque was ripped apart by the violent crackle of gunfire. Bullets tore through the room, striking down men where they stood, while panic exploded all around. Worshippers tried to flee, but the narrow aisles and the sudden confusion made escape impossible for many. Within minutes, 22 lay dead and more than 30 others were bleeding, crying, or motionless on the floor. The gunman had not come to frighten, he had come to kill. Witnesses later recalled that as people tried to scramble away, Abbas showed a chilling calculation. Women screamed, frozen in shock, but he turned his weapon away from them, muttering that his violence was reserved for the men. The decision wasn't mercy. It was ideology. Outside, the chaos spread to nearby homes. Some reported hearing shouts beyond the mosque, saying that Abbas stormed through houses in the area, hunting, threatening, leaving more victims in his wake. For those who lived in Jarafa, it was as though a nightmare had spilled out of the walls of their most sacred place and spread across their entire neighborhood. When security forces finally arrived, the gunman was still armed. A brief exchange of fire followed, but Abbas was gunned down before he could escape. His body was taken away, but the questions he left behind would torment Sudan for years. Who was this man? What had driven him to such horror? And why had no one stopped him before it was too late? Abbas Baqir Abbas was 33 years old, born into hardship, but marked from an early age by volatility and conviction. He studied economics at Tripoli University in Libya, a chance to build a future, but his life began to veer in another direction. Authorities in Libya accused him of having connections to Islamist groups, and he was forced to leave. Back in Sudan, he drifted further into the currents of radical ideology. He became involved with the Popular Defense Forces, a government militia raised to fight rebels, where he was hardened by conflict. He also attached himself to religious groups, at first aligning with the conservative Ansar al-Sunnah sect. But Abbas's views became more extreme than even they could tolerate. By the late 1990s, he had broken away, gravitating toward a far more radical faction, Takfir wal Hijra, a group that denounced mainstream Muslims as traitors and infidels, and believed violence was the only way to purify society. In his 30s, Abbas was already known to authorities. He had threatened Ansar al-Sunnah members as far back as 1998 and had been detained briefly. He even claimed at one point to renounce his views, convincing officials to let him go. But behind closed doors, his radicalism festered. He became convinced that his former allies were corrupt, that they had betrayed the true faith, and that only violence could cleanse what he saw as an infected community. And so, in December of 2000, he carried his grievances and his rifle to the Jarafa mosque. The massacres stunned Sudan. The mosque was not just a place of prayer, it was a cornerstone of community life. Families had prayed there for generations, and now it was stained with blood. Survivors told of crawling across the floor, slipping on their neighbor's blood, trying to shield sons, brothers, and fathers from the hail of bullets. The sound of the Kalashnikov echoed in their memories long after Abbas had been cut down. In the days that followed, grief consumed Jarafa. Funerals stretched on for days, thousands attending to pay respects. Coffins were carried one after another through the streets, accompanied by wailing families. The scale of loss was almost too much to comprehend. For a village that had lived in peace for decades, the sudden violence felt like the tearing open of an old wound that could never fully heal. President Omar al-Bashir himself came to Jarafa, offering promises of action. He stood before mourners and vowed to protect Sudan from extremist ideology, to change the laws so that groups like Takfir wal-Hijra could not spread unchecked. His words were both a promise and a warning. The state would not allow such destructive ideas to threaten its people again. Security forces acted quickly. 65 alleged members of Takfir wal-Hijra were arrested in the days after the massacre. The government gave itself greater powers under security laws, allowing detention without charge. Officials claimed the crackdown was necessary, that extremists were infecting society. But in hushed voices, others wondered, had the state simply ignored the warning signs all along? The attack raised more questions than answers. Some witnesses insisted Abbas had not acted alone. They claimed to have seen men in traditional jalabias fleeing the scene. Others whispered that the gunmen had been part of a larger plan, that Jarafa was not a random target but a chosen stage for a message of terror. Official statements denied this, insisting it was the act of one man, but suspicion lingered. The ideology behind the attack was not new. In the years before Jarafa, Sudan had already seen sectarian violence tied to Takfir adherents. In 1994, gunmen killed 19 worshippers from the same sect. In 1996, 12 more died. In 1997, there was another attack outside a mosque. Each act was brutal, each justified by the same radical belief that only they held the truth. For Sudanese families, the massacre of 2000 was the breaking point. If men could no longer pray safely, what hope was left? Parents feared for their children's futures. Communities fractured, trust eroded. The very fabric of Sudanese society was threatened not by foreign invaders, but by neighbors turned zealots. And yet, amid the grief, there was resilience. Survivors of the attack rebuilt their mosque, refusing to let the memory of violence erase their devotion. Families who lost fathers and sons clung to one another, determined to honor those taken. The community carried the scar, but they carried it together. Abbas Baqir Abbas's story did not end with his death. It continued in the debates about extremism and freedom, in the laws passed to give the state more control, in the whispers of whether his massacre was truly the act of a lone zealot or part of something darker. His legacy was not of martyrdom, but of a cautionary tale, a man consumed by hate who brought only suffering to those around him. As the years passed, Sudan continued to wrestle with the same questions. How does a nation confront extremism without crushing freedom? How do communities heal from wounds carved by neighbors? And how can the next Abbas Baqir Abbas be stopped before he lifts his weapon? The Jarafa massacre remains etched in Sudan's memory, a night when prayer turned to panic and faith was tested against fear. For the families of the victims, no law, no arrest, no government promise could undo the loss. They live with the memory of that December night, the sound of the gunfire, the cries of loved ones, the sight of a mosque transformed into a battlefield. The story of Abbas Baqir Abbas is a story of warning. It tells us what happens when radical ideology is left to fester, when grievances become weapons, and when violence replaces dialogue. It reminds us of the fragility of peace and of the responsibility to guard it fiercely. And so, when we speak of the Jarafa massacre, we remember not only the gunmen, but the victims. 22 lives cut short, 30 wounded, countless others scarred forever. Their names may not be known across the world, but their story matters. It matters because it is a reminder of what hatred can destroy and what communities must rebuild in its wake.